When the city's most feared mafia boss spent one night with a woman who didn't even know his name, he thought it would be just another fleeting memory. Until he learned she was nothing like the women who chased him. She didn't want his money. She didn't want his power. She just wanted him to leave her alone. And that's exactly what he couldn't do. The rain poured down in silver sheets that night, blurring the city lights into a hazy dream. Inside Club Mirage, the air was thick with perfume, cigarette smoke, and low laughter. A place where secrets and sins danced under neon glow. Dante Moretti sat in his usual corner, a whiskey glass in hand, his expression unreadable. To everyone in the room, he was power personified, the man who ran half the city's underground, feared by rivals and worshipped by those who owed him their lives. But even power gets lonely. Tonight, as the music throbbed and bodies swayed, Dante felt that old emptiness creeping back. He had money, control, everything a man could want, except peace. Then he saw her. She didn't belong there, not in this den of wolves. She sat near the bar, wearing a white blouse damp from the rain, and simple jeans that set her apart from the glitter and silk around her. Her brown hair clung to her cheeks, her lips pressed together in nervous hesitation as she stared at her untouched drink. She wasn't flirting, wasn't performing, just quietly existing. And somehow, that caught his attention more than anything. Dante had seen countless women throw themselves at him for what he could offer. But this one looked like she didn't even know who he was. That made her dangerous in a way he couldn't explain. When their eyes met, something in him shifted. She didn't look away. Her gaze was curious, open, and startlingly genuine. He found himself walking toward her before his mind caught up. "You don't belong here," he said, voice low and smooth. She looked up, and for a moment her eyes softened. "Neither do you," she replied. He almost laughed. No one ever spoke to him like that. Her voice was calm, innocent even, but carried a quiet strength. Her name was Clara Evans, she told him later, a nurse who'd come in with a friend who ended up ditching her. He offered to buy her another drink, but she asked for coffee instead. Coffee in a nightclub. He almost smiled at the absurdity of it, and yet he found himself calling the bartender over anyway. They talked. Really talked. About nothing and everything. Her work at the hospital, his vague answers about business, the city lights, the smell of rain. For the first time in years, Dante felt seen, not as the ruthless boss of the Moretti family, but as a man who could laugh, who could listen, who could forget the weight of his sins for a while. Hours passed, and when he offered her a ride home, she hesitated but eventually agreed. The night didn't end with words. It ended in silence, in the warmth of a moment that neither of them planned. In his penthouse, under dim city lights, he held her like something fragile, something real. When morning came, the sun spilled across the sheets. The bed was cold, and she was gone. No note, no trace, only the faint scent of jasmine left behind. Dante stood there, staring at the empty space, not realizing that for the first time in his life, someone had slipped through his control. And as the city woke below, he felt it deep in his chest. The one thing he could never buy had just walked out his door. For days, Dante tried to shake the feeling that haunted him. He buried himself in meetings, in the noise of gun deals, in the blood and chaos that had always defined his world. But nothing drowned her out. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her. That quiet smile, those soft brown eyes, the way she'd looked at him like he was a man, not a monster. It infuriated him how much power a stranger could hold over him. He didn't even know where she lived, only her first name, Clara, a nurse. That was all. His right-hand man, Luca, noticed the shift immediately. "Boss, you've been distracted," he said one evening, as Dante sat in his office, staring out over the rain-slick city skyline. "You want me to handle the deal with the Russians?" Dante didn't answer right away. He turned the glass of whiskey in his hand, watching the amber swirl. "Find someone for me," he said finally. Luca frowned. "Someone?" "A woman," Dante replied, his voice low. "Her name's Clara Evans. She's a nurse. Start with hospitals." Luca raised an eyebrow but didn't question it. In this world, it wasn't his place to ask why the boss wanted what he wanted. Still, even he sensed something different in Dante's tone. It wasn't the command of a man seeking revenge. It was the quiet desperation of someone trying to feel again. 3 days later, Luca returned with news. He placed a file on Dante's desk. St. Anne's Hospital. Works night shifts. Keeps to herself. Clean record. Lives alone. Dante's hand stilled on the file. He stared at it for a long moment before opening it. There she was, a photo clipped from her hospital ID, her hair tied up, smile faint but genuine. Something inside him cracked. He told himself he only wanted to see her one more time, to make sure she was okay, to convince himself that what he felt that night wasn't real. But when he found himself sitting in his car outside St. Anne's, watching her help a little boy into an ambulance, he knew he was lying to himself. She wasn't part of his world, and yet she'd somehow become the center of it. That night, he didn't go inside. He just watched from a distance as if getting too close would burn him. The next evening, he came again. And the next. Each time he told himself it would be the last. But every time he stayed longer, memorizing her movements, the way she smiled at patients, the softness he didn't know existed anymore. Then one night, she turned her head and saw him through the glass doors. Her expression froze. For a second, neither of them moved. Then she looked away and walked quickly inside. Dante's chest tightened, his control slipping like sand through his fingers. The next day, he showed up again. This time he didn't hide. He waited by the hospital entrance until she came out. She stopped short when she saw him, clutching her bag tighter. "Clara," he said quietly. Her eyes flickered with fear. Not of him, but of what he represented. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "This is my life. You don't belong in it." "I need to talk to you," he said. "There's nothing to talk about." He took a slow step forward. "You left that morning without a word." Her voice trembled. "Because I didn't want to be one of your stories, Dante. I didn't want to be part of your world." He was silent for a long moment. "Maybe I don't want that world anymore." She looked at him, startled. And then something flickered in her eyes. Something like sadness. "You can't change what you are." He watched her walk away, her figure swallowed by the rain. But what she didn't see, what he didn't yet realize, was that change had already begun. Because for the first time in his life, the man who ruled everything had found something he couldn't control, his own heart.